Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officiating Services with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is football officiating training tape number 4. We're off to a great start. Keep up the great work. Appreciate your willingness to look at these plays and have a conversation with your crew as we head into week 3. Again, when we're looking at these plays, we're not picking on any one team or player or crew or official, just trying to learn from these plays and incorporating them into our pregame as we prepare for our games this week. So with that, let's take a look at some plays. Okay, in this play, I want to talk about judgment, again, offensive holding, and then our mechanics as well. So you see we have a run to the bottom of the screen, and it ultimately results in a touchdown. And back judges, you see that we get kind of caught up with this play. Try to maintain that cushion by turning your hips and running. If we do that soon enough, we should be able to get to the goal line and adjust, because we want to be on the goal line when this runner crosses the goal line. I know we go up a touchdown in the middle of the end zone, and it's fairly clearly a situation where he crosses the goal line, but if it were to be a little bit tighter and you see that the line of scrimmage official is not quite there, we would be guessing. So let's turn our hips and run when we know that we're going to be threatened or that cushion's going to be less. Let's turn our hips and run and get to the goal line so that we can be there when this runner crosses, and try not to have this end up in our lap. The other piece of this play from a judgment standpoint is the block at the bottom of the screen, right at the initial part of the run. It starts out as a double team, and then ultimately you see it right here at the edge, right there at the 45-yard line, at the A45. It starts out as a double team. Then the player that kind of hooks him up a little bit, he drops him to the ground, but he gets that help. You'll see here he gets help from that second blocker that comes in and provides that chip block, and that's what ultimately helps him go to the ground. And so the only reason I mentioned this block is we just want to be careful and make sure that the offensive hold is the only reason that this runner went to the ground. And so just be careful. If we have a double team and he gets help to the ground, and it's not because of a hold, it's because he got blocked to the ground, and it just so happened that the other player has a little bit of a piece of him, we just want to be careful on that. So mechanically, back judges, turn your hips and run, beat the runner to the goal line, so that we don't have this end up in our lap. And then the other piece is with this block at the top of the screen, let's make sure that we see the whole play, start, develop, and finish. If it's point of attack, material restriction, category for offensive holding, we can put it there. But remember, if there's some help from a secondary block, the reason he hit the ground is because of that secondary contact. So just be careful on those pieces. And then mechanically, let's make sure we get out in front, beat him to the goal line, and also line of scrimmage, make sure that we have communication with the back judge as he crosses the goal line. Okay, on this one, let's talk forward and backward mechanics as far as backwards passes are concerned. So you see the quarterback goes to the top of the screen, and then we have a backwards pass, a lateral here, right at the line of scrimmage, maybe a little bit past. And just mechanically, remember the wing opposite is primary. However, when we get this far over to the other side of the field and we just have a pitch play like this, we can go primary with that side of the field. Doesn't mean that the other wing doesn't have an opinion. We want them to have an opinion on forward, backward. But ultimately, when we get this far over to the other side of the field, the primary would be the wing official on that side, and then the secondary would be the other wing. But if we have a pitch or backwards pass in the middle of the field, The wing that it's going away from is going to be primary. So just keep that in mind. Again, primary does not mean only, just means primary, and then we have secondary responsibility from the other wing. And if we're not sure if it's 50-50, we're going to play these as a backwards pass and play this out. But if it's forward to your side, let's blow that incomplete. Remember that a shovel pass like this is a forward pass if it is forward. It's backward in this case. So if it is backward, or that's what we rule, we need to punch backwards and indicate that we have it as backwards. Because if we don't do anything, we're telling everyone that we have this as a forward pass. Therefore, we should be blowing this dead as an incomplete pass. So just something to consider. Have a conversation, wing officials especially, have a conversation about your mechanics on forward, backward, how you're going to coordinate, who has primary versus secondary, so that we make sure that we get these plays right. We can always call it backwards, get together. You know what? That was forward, blow it incomplete, no problem. But once we blow a play incomplete that's actually not, we can't really do anything with that at that point. So just something to consider when dealing with these plays is if you're 50-50 on it, we'll play it out as a backwards pass. If you're sure, blow it dead. And we can always get together as a crew after we've called it backwards, have a discussion, and rule it incomplete. We can always do that in that fashion. So be patient, use proper mechanics, make sure we punch if we have it as backwards, and then primary, you're responsible for blowing this incomplete if it is in fact forward. Okay, in this play, I want to talk about the considerations for defensive pass interference and then our mechanics. So in this play, you see we have a pass at the top of the screen. I like our mechanics. We're sliding down to the goal line. And then when we have this early contact here playing through the back, we have a flag for defensive pass interference. Remember, when we're evaluating for defensive pass interference, we want to put it in a category just like with holding. And the categories for that would include one, early contact by a defender who is not playing the ball would be defensive pass interference provided the other requirements for defensive pass interference have been met, regardless of how deep the pass is thrown to the receiver. Two, playing through the back of a receiver in an attempt to make a play on the ball. And that's what we have in this particular case. Remember, the defense has just as much right to the football as the offensive player. And if you have four hands going for the ball, likely okay. But if we just play through the back and make that contact without really trying to get at the ball above them, probably a foul, and that's what we have in this case. Three, grabbing and restricting a receiver's arms or body in such a manner that restricts their opportunity to catch a pass. Four, extending an arm across the body, which would be an arm bar of the receiver, restricting their ability to catch a pass regardless of the fact of whether or not the defender is looking for the ball. Five, cutting off or riding the receiver out of the path to the ball by making contact without playing the football. And six, hooking and restricting a receiver in an attempt to get to the ball in such a manner that causes the receiver's body to turn prior to the ball arriving. So, again, when we have defensive pass interference, evaluate it with these categories in mind. If you can place it in a category, then it is likely enough for a foul. Now, mechanically, finish this play, line of scrimmage. The result of this play is an incomplete pass. Let's finish the play, okay? Don't worry about the football. Let's finish the play, then report the foul information to the referee, and then we can get on with enforcement. We have a nice announcement here. And then remember, not an automatic first down, so we do a nice job here of half the distance to the goal. It's going to be fourth down once again. So we do a nice job with that. Well done by the crew in picking up this foul. Just make sure we finish the play. Whether it's back judge, line of scrimmage, doesn't matter. Finish the play. Then go give the foul information to the referee. Referee, do your announcement. Umpire, line of scrimmage. Let's mark it off, and we'll move on with the next play. So well done by the crew on this play. On this one, I want to talk about the categories of defensive pass interference and then the concept and philosophy of bang bang. So in this particular play, we have a pass here. You see that as the pass arrives, there's some contact with an opponent, and we properly no call this for pass interference. So first of all, from a category standpoint, when we're looking at defensive pass interference, some of the categories we would be looking at would include early contact by a defender who's not trying to play the ball. So remember, we talked about that concept of four hands. If you see four hands, that means typically both players are trying to make a play on the ball. Now, if you're missing a hand, doesn't necessarily mean that there's a foul, but it is a little bit more suspect in that way. Secondly, playing through the back, again, not trying to play the ball. If they're both making a bona fide attempt at the ball, then we can potentially pass on that type of action. However, if they play through the back entirely to get to the ball, like in this case, if the contact was substantially earlier trying to get at the ball and body contacts this receiver, that would be defensive pass interference. Third, grabbing and restricting the receiver's arm or body in such a manner that it restricts their opportunity to catch the pass. 4, extending an arm across the body, which would be an arm bar, or body in such a manner that restricts their ability to catch the pass regardless of whether or not the defender is looking at the ball. So if they put their arm across them and stop them or reroute them while the ball is in the air, that would constitute defensive pass interference. Cutting off or riding the receiver out of the path of the ball by making contact without playing the ball. So defensive back just turns, puts their body into the receiver and just rides them right out of bounds. Those kind of things would constitute defensive pass interference, provided the ball is on the way. And then finally, hooking and restricting a receiver in an attempt to get at the ball in a manner that causes the receiver's body to turn prior to the ball arriving. So if there's a definite turn and then the ball arrives, and there's a sequence of time there, that would be enough for defensive pass interference. So in this case, and we'll move on to philosophy of bang bang, if the contact by the defender is so close to the ball arriving that we have to look at it in super slow-mo and tick, tick, tick the video, then that is too tight, and we don't want pass interference on contact in that case. So in this particular example, you see that the contact occurs right as the ball arrives. This is really good timing by the defensive player, and this is properly no-called by the officials in this case. So good judgment to say that we're not going to have the best eyes in history of officiating and say that the defender arrived a nanosecond before the ball. If it's bang bang, we're going to pass on those. And again, when we're evaluating contact for pass interference, let's look at those 6 categories and use those as a barometer of what we would be looking for with pass interference. But overall, very nice job in this play by the crew. This is an example of excellent free kick mechanics, particularly by the line of scrimmage official at the top of the screen. Remember, line of scrimmage officials were at the pylon on every kick, and it's pretty rare that we need to move up. Most of the time, even if it's a short kick, we still can officiate effectively moving forward and seeing blocks as they come down the field. We're going to be in a really good spot angle-wise to see those blocks. Even if it's 20 to 30 yards away, we're still going to be in good position. So we don't need to vacate the pylon really quickly. And we do a pretty good job of that here. We take a step or two forward, we figure out that the ball's been muffed, and then we stop, take all the blocks in front of us, come up in the white, square off, officiate the dead ball action. So this is excellent mechanics. This is exactly what we want to see. We wind the clock when it's legally touched, officiating blocks out front, officiate the dead ball action. Very calm, cool, collected, excellent mechanics. Very nice job by the line of scrimmage official and by this crew in particular with these mechanics. Okay, on this one, I want to talk about chop block and then our coverage and how we pick up these blocks. So we have a chop block at the bottom half of the screen picked up by the umpire. So this is excellent mechanics and vision. This is exactly where we should be looking as the umpire. So we do a nice job with that. Before I get into the definition, just something to point out here. Make sure when we have a chop block, umpires in particular, but it might be line of scrimmage officials as well. Let's get the information to the referee, and it needs to be both numbers. And referees, don't turn on the mic until you have both numbers. Because remember, the chop block is a combination block. And if you look at the definition, which is 238, a chop block is a combination block by two or more teammates against an opponent other than the runner, with or without delay, where one of the blocks is below the waist and one of the blocks is above the waist. So if you see here, we have high contact and low contact against the same player. And these blocks are almost always a mistake. A player either blocks low or blocks a player they weren't supposed to block. And you can even see when the play is over that the one player is telling his buddy, you shouldn't have blocked the guy that way, otherwise we wouldn't have a foul. So these are almost always mistakes, but it's critical that we use proper mechanics and vision to pick these up. And we do a nice job of that here, where we're looking at the right spot. And when we're working in our mechanics, remember, we're going to zone up. So umpires, you're going to have center, left guard, tackle on your side of the formation. On the left side, always. Referees, guard and tackle on your side of the formation, always on the right side. And if the play develops to the right, the referee will go to the point of attack. Umpire will stick backside, and don't bump down or transition until there is no more threat. In this case, there's a threat right away. We stick with it and we get it. So this is exactly where we need to be looking. If the left tackle or guard goes out to the second level, then we can move on to the next block. We can transition to the next block because the back judge will pick that up downfield in that secondary blocking. And that's just a reminder, back judges, that we need to be really engaged in officiating run blocking. I know that passing is really our baby as back judges, but we need to be really engaged on run blocking, especially downfield, second level blocks, because the umpire is in the offensive backfield. But I just wanted to point out this play. One, it's a good example of a chop block, high-low contact. Remember, if a player is trying to get to the second level and they just brush by them and they make incidental contact, that's not enough for an engagement or a block. But if they engage them high and another player engages that same opponent low, with or without delay, we would have enough for a chop block. And these are safety fouls. When in doubt, throw the flag. The other piece is, if it's not part of that initial blocking, that initial charge, initial action at the snap, and it's a low block, it's going to be a foul because it needs to be immediate. And if it's not, any low blocking is going to be a foul. And so rather than get into the minutia of chop block or not, if you have low blocking action after that initial charge, call it an illegal block below the waist and you'll be safe in doing that. But ultimately, if you do go with the chop block, get both numbers to the referee. Make sure you stay there until the referee completes the announcement so that they have access to you to get both numbers. But this is a great example of where we need to be looking in our mechanics. Great vision, good example of a chop block, and I'm glad we picked up the safety foul. Nice job. Okay, on this play, I want to talk about dead ball officiating and then progress spot. So you see we have a running play to the bottom of the screen. At the conclusion of the play, the ball carrier's helmet comes off. We properly kill the clock and ask number 8 to go off the field for 1 down. Now, from a dead ball officiating perspective, if you take a look at the replay, it appears that the defensive player, number 7, pulls the face mask of the runner off. And we would certainly support a dead ball personal foul because remember, this runner was down by rule at the time of this action. Now, in real time, certainly can understand that it would seem that it came off as part of the normal tackling action. So I totally understand that. More the point is for dead ball officiating, don't get so caught up in the spot or anything else, the football. Make sure we're officiating players. And I think we are in this situation. Just make sure anytime that we have players from each team by each other, we need to have a set of eyes on that until they clear. So keep officiating all the way through when they become down by rule, and then through until they go to their respective huddles. So progress spot, couple things. One, when we get hit and we're driven back, wherever the football was, the tip of the football was at that point is going to be the progress spot, not where they end up. So we do a good job of that here. Remember, line of scrimmage officials, we're holding the line of scrimmage until a pass is imminent. Then we can release, so we shouldn't be releasing yet, and then we can work back and get the spot. We ultimately get a good spot on this. If the runner is down by rule, so we have a body part other than the hand or foot that contacts the ground, they are down by rule at that point, and wherever the ball is located at that point in time is where the ball should be spotted for the next down. So try to put it on a yard line or half of a yard. Don't put it on a 1-inch yard line or a third. We don't need to have the best eyes in history of officiating. Put it down where it's easy for you as officials. Unless we're inside the 5-yard line, then put it where it is. Then we're going to put it exactly where it's located. But we've seen some spots out there this year where we have double action. What I mean by double action is the runner is down by rule and then they subsequently reach or bounce forward, and then we're giving them that extra yardage that they did not gain because they were already down by rule. So just be careful on that, especially around the goal line with double action. Knee down and then a reach. We need to put the ball at where it was when the ball became dead by rule. So just keep that in mind from a progress spot, forward progress spot perspective. Just a couple things to clean up. We've seen this year so far where we're not putting the ball where it needs to be. We're giving them either too much yardage or we're not giving them enough. We want to be in the neighborhood on spots and be as accurate as we can. So keep that in mind. And then dead ball officiating, make sure we officiate all the way to the end of the play until players separate to their respective huddles. Okay, on this last play, I want to point out just our mechanics and our pacing and then vision as well. So we have a running play, stop for a first down, we kill the clock properly, back judge, good dead ball officiating, umpire arrives. Once the umpire has the ball in his hands near where the ball is going to be put on the ground, referee winds up the game clock. So this is excellent pacing. Remember that even though the game clock is running, does not mean that the ball is ready for play. The play clock is going also does not mean the ball is ready for play. We need to make sure all officials are in position to officiate. We put the ball on the ground, we back up to our position, and then we are ready for the next play. And remember, we're going at our pace. I like how we're just nice and calm, under control. We're not running a million miles an hour. We're running it at our pace. Remember, our goal is to put the ball on the ground between 28 and 32 seconds remaining on the play clock. That's our goal. Unless it's the last 2 minutes of the second or fourth quarter, then we're going to try to get it down a little quicker than that. But ultimately, our pace, make sure officials are in position to officiate, or we're going to shut it down. The other piece of this is, we talked about it on the chop block play, our vision. Remember, umpire, left tackle, left guard, center, our primary responsibility at the snap, and then we're going to move to zone officiating. Referees, right guard and right tackle at the snap, and then move to zone officiating. In this particular play example, umpires, your vision, right to point of attack. Referee, you're going to work backside. Don't shift to point of attack until you've cleared threats on your side. Same thing if it goes the other way, umpires. Make sure we don't move to the front side too quick. We need to pick up those matchups on the backside. And then line of scrimmage, don't forget that you have responsibility on the tackles on your side, tight ends, run blocking, chop block, illegal block below waist, holding, etc. Make sure that you have vision on those blocks and at least have an opinion when the umpire and referee are down on those. But ultimately, excellent pacing mechanics on this play by the crew, and just a reminder on where we should be looking on each scrimmage down. So well done by the crew. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 4. Some mechanics consideration on our vision and where we're looking. Some considerations for pass interference, legal block below the waist, chop block, holding. Just some reminders. We're doing a pretty good job of it. Reminder on offensive holding, or any foul for that matter. Point of attack, material restriction, make them big. Obvious fouls, quality fouls is what we're looking for. Let the kids play when you can. When there's fouls that need to be had, let's get those. So keep up the good work. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you next week.